न्यू करके
ये तो बहुत बड़ा हो गया बताओ।
Good morning, guys. Sorry, थोड़ा लेट हो गया. And welcome to FlutterFeb, Flutter Study Jams. This is a series of 4 sessions that will be on every Friday because we couldn't get Saturdays. Next time, like after this is done, when we have further Flutter sessions, we will try to get Saturdays, but abhi Fridays go over. Okay? So, like how many of you are excited to do Flutter? How many of you have tried Flutter? How many have built an application that you want to show us? That you want to show us where everyone becomes shy. Yeah, okay, amazing. So, we are actually a bunch of people who have been developing Flutter, things in Flutter since a long time. Like we go way back. Most of you are familiar faces. Who is coming here for the first time ever? Okay, so we have some new faces as well. We have Martin here as well. Guys, Martin here. He is the head of business development for Nevercode. And he has come all the way over here to show us how to use Code Magic, which is a product that they have built, and we'll learn more about that from him directly. So, without wasting much time, since we don't have much of it today, I'll hand over to Jay as he will introduce you to Flutter. What is Flutter? Why we want to develop our apps in Flutter? And what is new about Flutter? Like what are the new things that we need to learn to be able to master Flutter? About a little bit of background about that. I and Jay have been developing like production Flutter applications since almost 5 to 6 months. He has been by my side almost all of the applications that I have made. He has went to the painting layer and he has implemented some of the custom things that I am not confident that I will be able to do at this moment. So without further ado, like Jay, take over.
Hello. Hello. Am I audible to you guys? So, uh, so we have gathered here to learn Flutter. It's an application, or we can say it's a platform built by Google to build beautiful and effective UIs that do in a very short time. Like here what we can say is, Flutter is an open source mobile application development SDK created by Google. And rest all you can read from the slide. So moving forward, how many of you are familiar with web development over here? Okay. Native? Native Android, native iOS? Android. Alright. So basically the development spectrum, according to me, I'm not too much into development, just newbie. So I have been developing since 5 months, as Ravish when I introduced me, and I started my development journey with Flutter. So according to me, development spectrum is divided into two parts, like it's web and the other is native. There are some pros of web and native development. Like for the web development, you have code sharing, code push and reactive UI. Like code sharing, you can share, what you can say is like, you write your business logic in some other language and you write some UI code in some other language. You can share both codes into one and you can create a web page or in a web Chrome or web browser. And for that web development, you have another good thing, that is code push. You are not bounded by rules and regulations of the any third-party platform like the Play Store or the iOS App Store. So it's easy, you just write your code and you push on the website. For the native part, you have rapid interface, it's around 60 FPS. You can browse your screen, you can like change your screens. The framework works like 60 frames per second. You have access to all hardware. For the web, you can merge your SDK, Android SDK or iOS SDK together, and you can develop your web for the Chrome web. Alright, heard of Chrome, Mozilla Firefox and all. So merging these SDK and with this, you can also get access to the hardware from the web too. And for the native web platform, you can feel like for iOS you have a different look, for Android you have a different look. Windows, I don't call it a smartphone actually. And where does Flutter lie then? Where the Flutter comes in? Actually, Flutter comes in between of them, and what you have is Flutter can do almost all of it, except for the code push. Due to Android Play Store and iOS stores have their policies and permissions and all things, but in future might be that code pushing is possible through Flutter. Alright. So moving forward, why do you need to do Flutter? You have fast graphics engine used, that is a Skiar 2D graphics engine. It is the power behind Chrome, Android, Adobe and the Amazon Kindle. All these platforms use Skiar graphics for its fast rendering property. You can build very awesome UIs. The one that's showing in the slide is the one that app called Reflectly. You can search it on the Play Store. Actually, this is a GIF. I don't know what's happening over here. The GIF is not working. जब काम होता तब वो जाता नहीं होता, कुछ नहीं होता. Then you have much flexibility on your code. Like flexible, how you can say flexible? Like you can control each and every pixel of your screen. What is possible? Like there, for the web, for the native, you write. There are two parts. One is activity and there are other views. You write your views in that view code, that much of the native part, you write your views on that XML file and your what functions in your activity file. I'm not that much into Android, but it is like that almost. So doing that, what it actually does, it takes the texture that is developed in the GPU of your mobile, it takes it and it presents in the views of your screen, like the screens of your phone. What Flutter does, it does the same thing, but Flutter, it pushes your code into the GPU. It writes its own texture, so that due to that, Flutter is able to surpass that dependency of the activity that is both different in iOS and Android. So it can run both on iOS and Android. That's the thing why most of the development is going towards Flutter, or there is another cross-platform developing SDK. You must have heard of React Native. So, alright, one more thing, you can never say to your designer who is into designing field or who have developed some apps in Android, must be facing too much difficulty. Like your app designer have told you to design something very complex. Like there is an animation from the right corner, there is an animation from the bottom of the screen, both happening together. Android users or Android developers, I must say that it's very difficult for them. Write XML code and write activity code. But with Flutter, you are very much easy to do. Flutter is very much easy to code with. Like how easy I can explain. This presentation was more tough for me to write comparing to write code in the Flutter. I could have write code on Flutter much faster than the speed which I developed this presentation actually. So moving forward, we have different plugins. Like we have Flutter Web View plugin. You can plug in your web view like Chrome, or this is basically taken from the native Android. This is not much developed, this web view plugin, but it is taken an idea from the native Android and it's there. So you can your Facebook page or your YouTube page, just like in the Chrome browser you see it, you can make it look in the Flutter. The other is RX, that is Redux. I'm not much into Redux. You will learn it later in the last sessions of the whole track. Your shared preferences, you can connect your phone with app with your phone's memory. You can store whatever is inside your app, you can store it into the phone's memory and reuse it whenever. Like first time login, you show something else like welcome, and the second time you don't show it, you take it to the rest of the screen. Then you have Flutter material design icons. Quite experiently itself. Like you have icons for the iOS, you have icons for the Android. The exceptional thing is about the material design icons of this plugin is it has more than 2,800 icons to choose from. Pizza icon you get it, moon icon you get it, any weird icon you can think of, you can get it from this library. Then you have the URL launcher, you can it launches URL, you can check if the URL is launchable or not, and can understand. Then there's a whole lot of libraries available. These are just a glimpse of it, just 2 to 3% I can say. In widgets, what is widgets? Everything in Flutter is widgets. But what is it? You have, since childhood, you have been playing with Lego bricks, right? Lego bricks, you build up, you go by step to step processes and build something with your Lego. You build a house, or you build crane, you build. There are people building different, like, what you can say, very big things with Lego bricks. Like you go first step, you just join it. Second step, third, then you go on till the final thing. Just like this Lego bricks, you assemble your widgets. You have column, you have row, you have buttons. You assemble it. You imagine your UI like you want this. So you build it. You assemble it. Okay. So I need a think of a login screen. How does it look like? There's a, in top you have your company icon, Facebook icon, then below that you have a username, below that you have a password, and then a login button. So you think of it, what can it be? What do I need? Okay. You first see that everything is arranged in a single column. So you think that, okay, I need a column. You just write column there and it's available. Then you assemble your text fields, you assemble your button in a proper manner. What is AOT and GIT? Ahead of time comparison and just in time comparison. Not getting much into it because you will learn slowly, gradually. Ahead of time only the thing is, Flutter able to do both. Only thing in iOS that you do is the iOS store policies. It is not able to do just in time compilation, because in just in time compilation you have the compiler in your embedded in your app, and when you push an update, the update goes and the app inside your phone compiles that code. That's the just in time compilation. And for the ahead of time compilation, you have what you can say, like you compile your code earlier and you push that compiled code as an update, so that due to that you are able to get to know about the errors, about the bugs that you have in your app before updating it. Like in most of the Android users who have been facing a lot of app crashes after certain updates, a lot of bugs, like the button was working earlier, now when I'm clicking the app's crashed, and you are getting an alert message like app has crashed or the phone has hanged. There is a little video of how Flutter implements just-in-time compilation. If it works, it's not working. What's new in the line of Flutter? Actually, anyone who is over here close to Flutter, little bit close, they know what is hot reload has. Anyone know? Hot reload. You can just write the single line of code. You don't need to compile it or anything, it just does its work within the fraction of. So, up till now we have seen what Flutter is, why do we need Flutter, how it's better than native building and web development. Now we are going to know what's been planned for the future of Flutter. Already we have so much things to do with. So first is Flare. It's an application by animations are complex animations with it. You have what, like you have a guy waving his hand to you, and you made that animation in Flare. You take that file and put it in your Flutter app file. You run it and it will work as fine, just like the hot. Then there is code magic. Not to tell about much because we have our friend coming from very far to explain for code magic. It will not be good if I explain about code magic and he has nothing to say about. Sorry, Marty.
That's alright.
Okay. So this is a payments SDK by Square. There are two payments SDK developed by Square, a company in USA. These are payments SDK in Flutter. All these things that we are talking about now has been talked about in Flutter Live and Flutter launch review 2, if you know about that, the 2 months earlier in December. Then we have Hummingbird. Okay. So Flutter, you know that you can write a single code base and run it on Android. And what about, do we need to write your code in Flutter, then write your code in CSS or HTML, then combine both those things? Won't it be tedious? What Hummingbird does is, it's actually not launched, it's just a concept by the Flutter team. So you can write your code in Flutter, it's just a single code, your code that you have written in Flutter. It will work on the web page. So Flutter is like vast. You can develop app in Android, iOS, and when Hummingbird is here, it's a far concept. You can write that code only in web. No HTML, no CSS or JavaScript needed for that.
So Hummingbird is like or it converts the code into HTML.
You can say, actually it's not yet in like process or it's not in working, just a concept of it.
You'll have to check that. They haven't been able to provide like architecture yet, but they have like just published their initial architecture draft of what they're planning. Okay, you can see a demo.
But if you want that, you can write doc that you will learn in state management. The person just sitting beside you will teach you about state management, and I don't find anyone else doing state management as better than him. Then you have maps SDK for Flutter. Maps quite explanatory. Moving forward, how does Raspberry Pi? Recently there was a blog post who taught embedding Flutter apps into Raspberry Pi. And suddenly you see everything is in Flutter now. Everything is Flutter. IoT, Flutter. Web, Flutter. iOS, Flutter. Let's ignore Windows. Okay. Let's sum up. We have learned what is Flutter. Flutter is just an SDK that helps you build iOS and Android apps with single code in effective time. Quite a long time ago, I read a meme for Flutter. Like, if you are a developer in Flutter and if you are not Flutter, basically native developer, and if you are paid by an hour, alright, you work for this much hours, you are paid this much money. But with Flutter, you won't be able to earn more. The thing is with that, you will be able to do it in half of the time of the native time. But you can do it for the iOS and the Android both. Moving forward, okay. Anybody love Flutter now? Anybody love Flutter till now? Or do you want to know how to master Flutter? Yes, of course. So it's just like asking a girl out that you like. Recently Valentine's Day, a week passed, so let's talk about that. What are the steps that you follow? Anybody? Ignoring that? Anybody? Start with that. If you like, well, what will you do? First you get to know about that. Then you start with the simple hello, hi, from far, you're nervous. Then you move forward. You learn painting. You learn guitar. You learn to style yourself. So, why? Because they like it. And then, talk. You have messages. You have lists in it. Shopping lists. You have poems. You need diary for that poems. And then, moving earlier, the most critical step, you need to manage yourself. You go in front of a talk crazily, no, right? You need to manage yourself. Or you run away thinking that you are some kind of creep friend from Pagal Khana or something. And then you manage, you learn everything, you learn Flutter, you learn, you can ask a girl out, I do Flutter, I know how to develop apps for Android and iOS, both without learning and Java. So, then you need to put everything to test before proposal and see if your thing or your work possible or not. So everybody familiar with the steps now? How does this apply in Flutter? Talk, get to know about it. What is Flutter, why Flutter, how things work around Flutter. First thing we just did. Second thing we will do in the rest of the 3 days. Third thing, we have other guy Rohit waiting for us, and Rohit himself will be teaching you to work with that. Then do something simple like a login screen I talked about over here. These are the sources you can learn from. You have Google Code Labs, you have Material Design Code Labs. It will from 104 to 101 to 104. Mistake there. These are 4 code labs that will teach you design a single app. It will help you design animations. It will help you design login screen too. Styling, theming. Then you have MTech Viral. Learning with English and other people from the outside, they are a bit, I've seen YouTube channels, a bit in a intermediate level of Flutter or a master level of Flutter. They are teaching. MTech Viral is like, it's in Hindi, it's a more familiar language, and it has the most basics or the ground zero level of Flutter you can learn from. Heard of Pawan Kumar, the TV from India? Yes, MTech Viral is his time. Then painting. You learn painting. You learn to draw art, rect, circle. These are the direct names of the widget. Rect you can draw a rectangle. Rect you have rounded corners with rectangle. Circle is explanatory. You are given a canvas, you are given the size of the canvas, and you draw it. Then you have animations, you have animated builder. Like what animated builder does is just simple games. You have something that needs to be animated. Like you made a square, you want to animate it. Square is just static itself, and you just need to animate its transformation. You want to rotate it. The x, y, z coordinates you want to change. The square remains a square. You don't want to change. So animated builder helps you divide those things, put the static child differently, and build your animation differently. Then you have animated widget. You have tween. You can tween from a value of 0 to 1. You have animations, and you have curves. Now the curves you draw in similar to that kind of things, but these are curves of different animations. Like it goes from bottom to top in within a second, or within the 0.5. Then you have layout builder and you have render box. These are the basics of the painting layer. There is more in depth about this. This will help you start with it. Layout builder, what it does, it gives you the size of the parent, so that according to that you can build your child with it. Child, parent, everything is there in Flutter. Actually, all the widgets has its own child. So, and the render box, how can I explain it? What Flutter does is how it actually deals with the widget you have created. Actually, you just don't build a single widget and make your whole app with it. So you have multiple widgets. It has its own child. It's just like a family tree of widgets. It copies your widget tree into another render tree. Alright. Render tree is not to work with. If you like उसके साथ छेड़छाड़ करोगे, then it creates a problem for it. If you are very much master in Flutter, you can deal with the render trees. What render box does it? Every widget has its own render box in the widget tree. It will give you that render box about that widget. The size of render box, actually it's a 2D coordinate, and it will give you the x and y axis of the your widget. It will start from the left top corner of the widget and 0, 0 from there, and you get the size of the widget, height and width. Moving from one screen to the other screen. Pagination is like, you have seen some apps that has constant pages, swipeable pages on it. Like in Instagram, if anybody uses it, if multiple photos are there, you can swipe from in the same post, you can swipe and see the photos. That is pagination. Responsive design patterns. We learn about some of the design patterns, and one of the design patterns we learned today itself. The most basic design pattern. You have views, you have scroll views, you have list builders. List builders, like you can pass it a list to it, and it will build your widgets in a manner of basics. Scroll views, you want a bouncing scroll view like your iPhone app. You want that when you have ended your scrolling, you want like color. You have seen that curve that comes, that indicates it has ended. You can't scroll beyond that. All this comes in the views in the list builders. This is all scroll physics about Flutter language. Then you have slivers, the most beautiful thing about Flutter. Past 2 months, we have been building, Ravishbhai and me are building app. We were quite skeptical about slivers, but what app needed Flutter? Only slivers are important. Slivers You have seen app bars like native Android, like Moto phones have native Android in it, no custom UI. So what you see that phone book in it, you are able to scroll and the app bar over it expands. You have seen that the photo expands itself. So Sliver helps with that. And sometimes there are content below the screen, you scroll up, it just sticks in the middle and content below that thing runs behind it, scrolls, keeps scrolling. So that is also with Sliver. State management. Not to talk about much, you will learn it slowly. You will learn Redux, you will learn streams, you will learn scope models, you will learn design patterns so that you can build better code for the future. Like you just build your app for today, doesn't matter. If you need the different update for it, it won't work. Like the code will get messy, and at the end of the day, you will see that you have to build that whole app you have been working on for the 2 years or 3 years, build it from the scratch yet again. So design pattern is something handy over there. You need to learn how to design, how to manage your code. This is basically managing about your code. What architecture you will use so that if any update needed in your app, you want to remove something or you have to add something, removing and adding that thing won't affect the rest of the code. And sometimes you leave that development part, other guy comes in and sees that code, he's not able to understand that. And he messes it up again. You don't want that. Right. Coming to the end, the proposal part. Test what you have learned. 18 at 11Y audits, it is an international audit that will audit your app. I18N will generate a boilerplate code for your app when you need to internationalize it into international standards. Of course, you don't want to stay within the local area. You don't want your app. You want the world to see what you have built. Make sure. Testing and debugging, of course. Writing tests for the past app. That is just a learning curve. You will learn to write tests for the past app. We'll practice accessibility and how internationalization audit works. Offline and online persistence. Most important of it is the Git and GitHub workflow. You want your code to stay safe. Others, to understand what's being updated, and what's being changed, what line of property on your app has been added. Git helps you with it. Commits, pushes, and also you won't work alone most of the time. And team, you will build your code in a separate branch, and the head of the team will merge your code with it. So he doesn't get any conflicts. You need to learn the GitHub also. Here we come at the end with our presentation.
Just one question.
Yeah.
You have Flutter which compiles on iOS and Android both. So what about the internal libraries of these two different operating systems to access
Android and
Android and iOS? They have internal libraries for access cameras and all those sort of things, right?
Yes.
So how exactly does that?
Actually, and as I told you, Android works on the activity part and view part. And what activity does, it takes a texture from the GPU and it sends to the views, and you can see it on the screen. What Flutter does, it works on the GPU itself, so that you don't need any different activity for that.
He asked that what about the libraries that you have on Android and iOS? So there is a thing for that, it's called platform channels, so which you can interact between your Flutter plugin and the native library.
Okay, so here, thank you. Also, we have a last. He is also present.
Guys, Martin Jarrett, Head of Business Development for Nevercode.
Thanks, guys, and thanks to Reese as well. I saw a couple of you were already building some Flutter applications, which was it's working now.
Yeah. Switch it to Max.
Like so?
Yeah.
Okay, I see. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Ravish. From what I understood, and some of you already have started with Flutter even before this event, which is really, a couple of you are already building some applications. Some are ready to show them as well. I already know a little bit about Nevercode and Code Magic. So if you've heard of it, can you raise your hand? People. Great. So I get to teach it, tell you a little bit about what it is, how it works, and why it's useful for you as well. So CodeMagic is a continuous integration and delivery tool. Who here knows what continuous integration and delivery is? So CodeMagic was released during Flutter Live in December, and it's a free service. So CodeMagic helps you when you have your Flutter applications to publish them, test them, and use them. So I had an assumption that some of you may not be familiar with continuous integration. So just to make a really simple idea of how it works, is the more lines of code you have, the more errors you're going to have, right? So, and this line goes up. You can also represent it as the number of microwave dinners you're going to have. If you kind of commit huge amounts of code and you have errors in there, it's going to be difficult to find them, or it's more prone to have errors. So it's better to commit them in small increments. And this is essentially what continuous integration does. So continuous integration allows you to test every code commit that you make to your shared repository, so that to make sure that all the code changes, they don't adversely affect your applications. So this makes sure that you're committing small changes, big changes during a longer period of time. And that's essentially continuous integration. Now, continuous delivery means that if those integrations are successful, so if we are able to build your application, then you'll be able to deliver it as well. So you'll be able to push it either to your coworkers by email or Slack, or you'll be able to push it to the Play Store or the App Store as well. And deployment means that you don't have to do this manually. So if you're really adventurous, then you can do continuous deployment, which means every code commit will automatically trigger a push to the Play Store as well, or the App Store. Does that make sense? Yeah? So what CodeMagic is we do just that. So if you have your Flutter projects, we build your Flutter projects with our Macs in the US, that's running on Google Cloud. We test your apps, and if you want, we can also publish your applications as well. And we were really taking into account to make this really easy for the everyday developer. You know, Flutter team talks about Flutter as almost as if the web came out for the first time. You know, everybody was able to build a web page, and now with Flutter, they're trying to democratize app development as well, so that everybody will be able to develop apps. So this is what we took into account as well when we were building CodeMagic, so that everybody will be able to get their applications or their projects to their end users, to the app stores. So without further ado, I'd like to show you a little bit of a demonstration and how it works as well. If you have your laptops out, you can join me. You can, if you want to try publish your app together with me, we can do that just now. So if you go on codemagic.io, this is the website, and we support different repositories. So if you have GitHub, Bitbucket, or GitLab, right now I'm going to join with GitHub. And one thing I wanted to mention is that CodeMagic is a dedicated tool only for Flutter. So we don't support any other technologies, we're just doing Flutter. And we're free tools, so you don't have to pay for it to use it. So I'm just going to log in. And these are listed here. The icons that have the Flutter next to them, these are the Dart languages that we pick up. If you're using GitHub, we'll be able to detect it automatically, which is here, for example. So after we've cloned our repository based on the changes that are happening, I can add post-clone and pre-test scripts. So this is a custom scripts that you can add, and you can use these environmental variables that you've set in the previous step.
Can you give an example where something like this would be used?
Yeah, I'll show you later where I'm using a custom script. Following this, you have the tests. By the way, if anybody has questions in between, just shoot them if I'm going too fast or something. So following this, we have tests. Right now, I've disabled tests. You can select your test targets here. It's fairly obvious. I'm not gonna stop too long in here. We support widget tests, UI tests, and unit tests. And here we get to it's getting better and better as we progress along, because now we're getting into the build steps, and then we're going to get into the publish steps as well. So, when you're getting into the build steps, when you're building with CodeMagic, you can select the Flutter version that you're going to use. So we use Macs that are building essentially virtual machines, ESXi, which means that we're nuking all previous things that are on the Mac, and we're starting from scratch, preparing your machine, installing dependencies, so forth. So when we're starting to build your application, you can choose which Flutter version we're going to use. If you want to use a specific one, if you want to use a dev one, beta one, right now we're using stable. So if the stable one changes, it automatically changes here as well. The mode one, we're going to pick release for this demo. You can also pick debug or profile. And for platforms, we're going to pick automatically update those. You can also pick build arguments. So if you want to use flavors in your applications that have different icons, or you have different splash screens, for example, then you can set those in your repository and find those build arguments here. Right now, in the not last meetup application, what we have is in our build Gradle, we have set two flavors. We have the main icon, and then we have the alternative icon, which correspond to flavor 1 and flavor 2. So as I'm building, if I have defined the flavor that I'm using, then I have to define it in the build argument as well. So right now I'm using flavor 2. But let's change it to flavor 1 actually. I like that one better. So if you download Not Last Meetup application now, after this demo, you can check and the icon will change. And let's click Save. So finally, publishing is where I'm going to stop a little bit longer. With publishing, you versions, and then you can publish to either your email, Slack, or to the App Store or Play Store. First, I'm going to show you how to sign your Android applications. Who here knows how to sign Android apps? Who is familiar with that? Yeah? Okay. So you guys know that code signing applications as well, it's quite complicated as you're getting into it for the first time. So in order to sign your Android apps, you have to generate something known as a key store. And to generate the key store, Flutter has prepared really nice documentation for this. So where I'm now is I'm on the Flutter Audio homepage, going on documentation, deployment, and Android. You can get it here. So to prepare this key store file, you have to essentially use this command, and then on your Android Studios, and then it'll prompt you to prepare a password as well. And you have to remember this password. The only thing I would like to note is that the final thing here, the key part, this is not set in stone, so you can choose what you want to add there. If you want to have the alias as key, then keep it as key, or if you want to use a different one, then you can use a different one. But the rest should be roughly the same. Then, when you prepare this key store file, you also have to add these properties into the key.properties file as well. And in our CodeMagic app, please use the same names for the variables as it does in the official documentation. Then you can make sure that it works. That makes sense? So in our app, for example, we've defined those variables as well in here. So if you're wanting to see how it works or how we've done this with this current application, just fork our repository or check it out. Never Code HQ, not last meetup. Okay? Now, I'm just checking what I. And then at the end, what you'll get is a .jks extension file that you can upload here. I've already done that. It was in my computer before. I've added the key store password that I set when I created it. And the key alias is key. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. With iOS code signing, I'm not gonna spend too much time on it, but because it's actually really easy with the code magic. Because one of the really cool things that we did is that you don't need a Mac in order to sign your iOS apps. Because what we have is we have the Macs in the US. So if you have your Apple Developer Portal, Apple Developer account, what you can do is you can use our Macs to generate your provisioning profiles and your certificates. So you can build your IPAs and you can publish those IPAs as well using code magic, automatic code signing. And we support two-factor authentication as well. So what you do is you just enter your Apple ID, your password, and then you choose your provisioning profile type. So if you want to, for example, distribute to the App Store, or if you want to use a hockey app, then you can use ad hoc or App Store, or if you want to debug, then just click development. You can click save here. You can also publish these artifacts that we're building to your email or Slack, as I mentioned before. Okay. It doesn't matter if I have the iOS code signing false right now because I'm not publishing to the iOS. And finally, we need to set up Google Play Store as well. So if you have your APK files created, now you have to publish them to the Play Store. And what we do here is you have to create the credentials JSON files so that we can publish them for you. And how you do that is, actually there's a really nice article by Nathan Glover who reviewed our application as well, and is showing you how to publish this to the Play Stores. But I'm also going to show you how to do that. What you have to do is you have to go to Google Cloud Console, and you have to create a new service account for your application. So you do that through here. You create the service account name. I'm going to choose Not Last Meetup. This is for Not Last Meetup. I can create it. For the role, it's also listed in the article. I'll publish all these resources to you guys later if you want to check them out. For the role, you want to click Service Account User. Yep. Click Continue, and you don't have to add anything in the final step. You create the key and you export your JSON file. And this JSON file is something that we're going to use in order to use the Google Cloud services on your behalf. But before we can do that, you have to grant access to this service as well. And you can do that at the settings where you have API access. But for me, I'm not an admin, so I can't. But the article I can show you here, how it works is you go to your Play Store console, you go to API access, and you just have to grant access to the service account. And make sure that you have publishing enabled for this service account so that we can publish on your behalf as well. Okay. So for this, we have selected the credentials JSON. We have selected our track as production. I'm going to click save. Okay. And now I want to start a new build for publishing to the Play Store. What do you guys expect to happen if I start a new build? Does it work or will it break? Is there something that I've left out? Or you want to find out? Okay, I'll just click start. Let's see what happens. Click start. I just realized I've been working on a different workflow, so I'll just change the flavor to flavor 1. Okay. So as it's starting the build, what it's doing is it's preparing the build machine as I mentioned before. So it's nuking everything that we currently have, and it's preparing your build machine. You can see the logs here. What I've done is, it's one of the perks of working at Nevercode is I have a MacBook Pro on or Mac Pro building this, so this is going to be like a little bit faster. It's like on steroids almost. If you're a company or a team looking to use CodeMagic as well, some people have self-hosted repositories, for example, and some people need concurrencies for their apps that are being developed. What we do is we do offer solutions for that as well. So there are a couple of companies that are trying us out at the moment. I can't name any names, but they require, for example, to build 3 apps at the same time. They require self-hosted repositories. They want their dedicated Macs in the US. If we have to pass like due diligence for security, we can do that as well. And if you have any questions about this later, I can answer those questions. Okay, so right now we're installing dependencies. Seems to be going okay. I really hope this finishes in time. I'm not sure how are we doing with time reach. It's okay? Okay. Finish installing dependencies.
So, how exactly it works is we give you access to our GitHub library. The data or rather the source code of the GitHub library goes to your servers.
Yeah.
There they compile.
Yeah.
And then they get deployed on the Play Store.
You can choose how you want to set up your workflow. So if you want to just compile and test it without publishing any artifacts, you can do that. If you want to publish any artifacts, you can do it. You can publish through email, you can publish through Slack, you can publish through Play Store, you can publish to App Store. You can use different applications like Hockey apps, for example. You can use a test flight if you want to publish a test flight. So you can customize it however way you want to. We've kept it in a way that if you have a complicated set of papers, you have different workflows, you want to have internal releases, you want to have external releases, then you can set that up.
Martin, like, is there a way to like ensure is there a way to use code without like my source code and my like all the signing credentials going through your servers?
If you want to test for debug, yes, then you just have to click. I'll show that in a little bit. I'll finish with this publication demo. But right now what we've seen is that if you're publishing to the Play Store, what you often find is you have to have a version code that's the latest one, so you can't reuse your version codes. So here is where we want to do is we want to have our version code that we sign our applications with being updated all the time. And what version code to use or how to do this is, first I want to know what version is my APK currently at, so that I can use the next version. So the not last meetup application is currently it's in release management. Version code number 13. So what I need to do is when I'm publishing is to have the version code as number 14, right? Make sense? So what we do is we go back to our applications, we configure this, and before I start my build process, I want to make sure that I'm building the correct version. So here, I've already, to avoid any mistakes that I might make, so I've already copy-pasted the script that I'm going to use, but I'll explain how it works. So what we do is we have a version code and we have a version name. The version code is the most important one. So the version code I'm going to set by default. I'm going to export the new version code is going to be the one that I set in the beginning plus my build number. So as my build numbers are increasing, my versions are increasing as well. So every time I'm publishing, I'm going to have the latest version code. So now what I want to achieve is to have this version code plus the build number equal to 14, right?
So where is your build number value?
Great question. So this is here. So the latest build that I used was build number 5. And what I want to achieve is next build is going to be build number 6. So
6 plus.
yeah.
Still it's not good.
Yeah, so then we have to update the version code. So the next build is going to be number 6, and then we need the version code to be 14. So which version code should I use in here?
Build number was 5 there, right?
Was 5, but I was using the default workflow. I'm using GDG Kolkata workflow now. So
now which build number will it be? 1.
no, it should be still. It's gonna be 5. The one that I showed you, it was 5.
5, exactly.
Yeah.
So 14 minus 5, 9, right?
Almost. Any other guesses? So you're on the right track. 14 minus 5 is 9, yeah. But the next build is going to be not 5, it's going to be 6, yeah. So what's the version code? 8.
10.
It's going to be 8, because 8 plus 6 is 14.
Okay, build number is changing. Okay.
Yeah. So let's save here. So now that I've saved my settings, I'm gonna start new build, and I'm gonna pray to the CI gods so that that it's gonna be a successful publishing as well. And you can later check if you've downloaded the Not Last Meetup application that the flavor or the app icon on your phone will be different in about 30 minutes or so. It's when the review process in the Google Play finishes. I can answer Ramish's question as well about if you don't have a production-ready application, if you're just working as a hobby developer, if you have your school projects in Flutter, if you want to just use CI in your project that you're doing right now, you can do that. The only thing you have to do is, when I'm checking these build arguments, I'm not building for release, but I'm going to build for debug, right? And this just means that you're not going to publish to the Play Stores or the App Stores. Does that make sense?
So, when you do the debug, what exactly happens? You compile the code,
Yeah.
and then
We build your application, and you still have to use to have the APK, I believe you still have to have on-write signing occurring if you want to have the artifacts published later. So
I just want to, let's say, test it. So, you file it there and then you send us the jar file or something? What exactly, how do I test it on my device?
If you want to test it on your device, then
Now using go to the Play Store.
yeah, so at the end we're gonna send you by email or by Slack, we're gonna send you the artifact of the APK or the IPA, depending on if you want to test it on Android or iOS. This would be a debug, and you have publishing to Play Store. I mean the email and Slack. Yes. If
So where to put those email IDs and Slack IDs for me?
yeah. So if you just publishing, here we have email and we have Slack. So in email, you can add your email, and Slack. Right now, I don't have a Slack, but what you can do is, in the beginning I showed you we have integrations. So if you connect your Slack and you're an admin, you can then select which channel you're going to publish the artifact. I can show you what they look like. So, not to show too much, but so it's going to look something like this. If you want to have, you have your runner-up, for example, that you're going to publish to the Slack channels, or you have your app APKs as well, for example. Let's see how our build is doing. And it finished. And it's a green light. Thank you. Easier now. I'll just double check here if we have the. Okay, so it's version code 14 as well. So that means that if I update my application, it's going to change from the this current icon. You can't see it, but it's going to change the current icon to the new one. My name was Martin. I'm from.
We can like 5 minutes.
5 minutes questions. Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Right, my question was more privacy related concern in an enterprise level. Like, I have my proprietary code and my own signing keys and I won't like be comfortable in letting it run through your service.
Yeah.
So, is there a way to use code magic without that?
If you want to have a self-hosted repository, for example, then there are currently one is self-hosted repositories for Bitbucket, and the other one is self-hosted repository called Magic. And you want to check us out, then we also have a Slack channel as well. So you can join our Slack channel from the bottom of the page over here, and then you'll be in. Okay.
So, are you guys closely working with Google on this? Exactly how
Yeah.
your partnership?
So we.
Thank you, Martin, for being here. We have a small like token for
Thank you.
Hello, am I audible? So till now we heard from Martin regarding the code magic, how we can publish our app and how we can deploy our apps. And Jay taught us what is Flutter, what's new in Flutter, why should we learn Flutter, what is the complete path to Flutter mastery. So I would be coming down to the basics, how we are writing the Flutter apps. So we are writing the Flutter apps in Dart. Dart is a programming language. So why are we using Dart? The first question is this. Dart is highly client optimized. So if the client asks for web apps, we can provide them with web apps. If the client asks for iOS app, we can provide them with the iOS app and even Android app. So we are getting three different features, three different domains using just one language. Next, it is definitely object-oriented. Portable in the sense we can convert an iOS app using, because we are using the same code base. Productive, it is highly productive. And it is reactive with the help of RxDart, that is Redux. So what are the various...
What do you mean by reactive?
Reactive in the sense it can react to, we have in RxDart we use streams. So if you are using streams, we can trigger events and not like the conventional code flow. We can just trigger via the events. Next, what are the various tools that Dart offers us? We have various tools ranging from Dart formatter, which will just format the code according to the Dart style guidelines. So it is very helpful while you are writing or testing your apps, because most of the times when we are writing, we try to change a lot of our code. So it is difficult for us to manage the styling and the recommendation. So it automatically formats the code. Dartpad, like for if you want to try something new in Dart, we don't have to actually download the SDK, or we have to download any additional softwares. We can directly hover over to the Dartpad and we can directly test our code. Next is Pub. Pub is the package manager for Dart, which can be, we can go to the pub by pub.dartlang.org. So whatever plugins and packages every one is publishing, that goes through the package manager, and we can install it, we can download it, and we can even publish our packages using the pub manager. The Dart analyzer is a very effective tool because in real time it shows us the error. At real time, whatever we are typing, it can show us the suggestions. What do we need to add, or if there is a because this is a very specific tool which is written in Dart, which is used to produce Dart code using a Dart code. That means like if we write a set of code that will produce another Dart code which we can use in further our apps. Suppose if you want to like convert a JSON file to a model class, so we can write a Dart code for that. That would be around 10 to 15 lines. And even if the JSON contains around 100 or 200 fields. So traditionally we had to copy all our fields and we had to create a model class for it. But just by writing 20 to 25 lines of code, we can use the build runner package. So it would automatically generate the model class for that. So we don't have to do that trouble. So what are the various features apart from these? These are the few features which like GIT and AOT has already been mentioned by Jay. Mixins would be covered by Ravish Bhaiya a bit later. Streams, like I told you, it is the building blocks for reactive programming. Async support, everything I would be covering a bit later regarding the async supports. So the basics. Every programming language needs the variables through which we can interact with the memory heap area. So if you want a generic type, we don't want to specify what data type we want to use, whether it is int, string, double, float, whatever it is. So we can use a generic type that is var. It will automatically locate which data type we are trying to trigger and would automatically set it at compile time. Dynamic. If you want to change the data type during the runtime, suppose first we are using a string and after that we don't want to change the variable name, but we want to change its data type. Suppose we want to change from string to float. So we can use dynamic for that. And because that is truly object oriented, even the variables which are not initialized, until we initialize it, everything is null. Because no memory is given to any kind of variable until it is initialized, unlike other programming languages. These are the few built-in data types. The numbers comprises of two segments, that is int, double, which the syntax for number is num, that is num. So if you are using num, we can write it can contain both int types, that is the integer range, or the floating type numbers, that is doubles. And of course, definitely we have strings and booleans over there. List is if you want a list of objects similar to an array with additional features. Map is taking the key value pair. Suppose in a dictionary, if you want to find something, so creating two arrays or two lists is not as convenient as a map, because we can directly map the two variables, that is the key and its value. Runes. We have the additional feature of symbols here. Suppose if we want to insert the Indian currency, that is the rupee symbol. So if we know the hexadecimal code of the rupee symbol, we can use it here. So if we just use rules over here and we have to specify the hexadecimal code, which we can get it via the internet from just by googling it. So it can directly print the symbols. The next conflict is final versus scope. Like in most of the programming language, there are two keywords reserved. One is final and one is constant. But in major of the programming language, both have a very keen difference between the two. And in Dart, there is something very interesting, because just by via the definition, it is not very clear. What does a final? It says a final variable can only be set once, and a constant variable is a compile time constant. So these two seems to be similar, but they are actually not. So what does finally actually do? This is a simple code in which we are trying to with the initial value of 5, and we are printing the value, and after that we are trying to change the value of x, which would give us a compile time error, because as we know that final variables cannot be changed. So it was quite easy, right? what about this? Any guesses what would be the output like? Whether it would be a buggy code or something else? Guys, I need active. Yeah. You are compile time error you are suggesting.
You're saying it's final. So as per the definition, it can be set only once.
Okay.
Setting name only at the very beginning, and then again you are trying to change one element of it. So it should.
Okay, so what are you suggesting? Whether it would be a compile time error or runtime error?
Compile time.
Compile time error. Any more guesses or any more suggestions? Runtime error. No, this isn't a buggy code. This would run perfectly fine. It would give us the output also. So, does that mean that did we fool the compiler? Is it possible? Do you think that there is some bug in the compiler that it is not being able? Because according to our knowledge, when we are setting the final variable once, we cannot alter it. So, but we are trying to alter it. And just now I claimed that it is not a buggy code. It is not a compile time error. It is not a runtime error. So, was there any fault in the compiler? Definitely no. But I wish we could. So what this exactly does? Final modifies the variables. It would only modify the variable, not the value assigned to it. So but in name, we are trying to add a list to it, which is a mutable class. And after that, what we are doing? We are changing the mutable class. Because it is already mutable, we can change its contents. So whether we change the first index, that would be here, or if we insert something, that won't affect the property of final. So how it difference between final and constant? Because in final we are trying to change the variable, but if we are using, if the variable is assigned to a mutable class, whether it is list or map or string, if we are just mutating the data, these data stored in it, we are not actually changing the variable, we are changing the contents of the variable. The same thing which we try to do using a pointer class in C and C++. So why are we using constant? Any guesses what will be the output? Compile time error, runtime error, no bug, what is it?
Compile time error.
Please be specific, like I want individual guesses or suggestions.
Compile time error.
Okay. It isn't compile time error actually, but it is a runtime error. Because at compile time this is not decided. Because at compile we can compile it perfectly, but when we try to run it, here what is constant modifies the values. So here what we are trying to do, we are trying to modify the value of this content. This is my content. That is a mutable class, but I have made it constant. That means I cannot change this content, but I am trying to modify it later. So it would give me a runtime error specifically. So this is the final battle. The first thing we are trying to do is, what would be? Whether it would give us the result would be true, false. Because after we are printing I is equal to j, so there are only two options. True or false? Can anyone reason for true or false, whatever you are suggesting?
Same value is going there.
Yeah?
Same value is going there.
Okay.
Should be true.
No, but this would result to be false. We are checking whether I is equal to j or not. These two, we have made it final. So what it is trying to do, we are calling a method get final. It would come over here. It would return a new instance of this mutable class list. So it is giving us two different objects in memory. One is assigned to I, other is assigned to j. So they both are not same.
So
Yeah.
when we are doing I equals to j, we are not checking for the values but the objects.
Yeah, it is actually checking. It is linked to which object, like in which memory. What about this? if we are just changing final to constant. Please raise your hands who are suggesting true. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And false? Okay, so this would be true because the constant part makes it triggers the content of the data type. So here we are trying to make a data type which is of a mutable class list which having the value 2, 3, and we are making it constant. That means in the memory area we are just having one object whose content is 2, 3, and we are trying to pass it to both I and j. So there is just one object in our memory, I and j, both are pointing it to both are pointing to the same memory. So when we are trying to print I equal to j, it would return a true and not false. Next we come to functions and generic types. So as we all, I hope everyone is familiar with the basic programming. They have built an idea whether it is C, C++ or anything. So we have all come across functions. So but what's special in Dart? Like I said, everything in Dart is an object. So functions too could not accept and hence they are object. So even we can call a class using a function. And in Dart we can also omit the data type which we are trying to interpret it. Like here I have not specified what would be the return type. So this won't give us any kind of errors. So when we are trying to define a function, we have to specify the parameter list, whether it contains one parameter, two, or no parameters. So in that we can have two types of parameter features. One is the optional types and one is the required types. Required types is the basic feature which we get in every programming language, where if we are specifying in the definition, if we are specifying something like suppose it is int try, and in the parameter list we have int a, int b. So it automatically becomes the required part. We have to specify it or else we'll get a compile time error. And the additional feature we get is the optional parameter list. Suppose sometimes we want to specify a parameter, sometimes we don't. Another feature in that is the arrow syntax for a function. Suppose we have a function which would return just a single statement. So we have a shorthand expression for that. We are defining the function. The body of the function, if it is of this type, returns some expression that is a single line. So we can use this type, that is a arrow key followed by a semicolon, and between this we can fit just a single liner. But if we try to fit a statement, would it work?
Yeah, it can. It can.
No, actually it does not support statements. It would support the expression, what expression we are trying to return. So it would definitely support expressions. And apart from expressions, would it support ternary operator? How many are voting for yes?
If expression is supported, then it can.
Yeah, it would support because ternary operator is a kind of an expression. It is not a statement. So coming back to optional parameters. So optional parameter means, like I told, suppose we want to specify some parameters. Suppose we are creating a model for a student. Suppose a student might be a commerce student or science student. So if we have a model which we have all the fields like commerce marks and science marks. So sometimes we specify the commerce marks, sometimes we specify the science marks. So for this, we have to just additional thing what we have to do within the parameter list, we will add square brackets, and that would result into the that would convert those parameters into optional parameters, just like this. This is a function which would return a whose return type is string. These two are required parameters as usual. This is an optional parameter because we have specified it within the square brackets. So we are calculating the result, that is from, it is coming from here, message, from says this message, and after that we are checking if this thing device, what device is using, if it is not null, so we are adding result with a device that would compile, that would return me a string, and we are returning that string. So first we are calling the same method with Bob and Howdy. So these are the two required fields. First field is from, second field is message. So it would give us true because it would say Bob says howdy. The second time we are trying to call Bob, howdy and smoke signal. So this time what it would be? First it would be it would calibrate it to Bob says howdy, and we are adding result with a device. That is, this my result will come over here. That is Bob says howdy with a signal, with a smoke signal. So this would also evaluate to it true. So this how we can omit some parameters which we don't want to specify it all the times. The second part is we can even name the parameters. Suppose it sometimes it is difficult for us to remember which position it was. So we can give a kind of label to it. So for adding the label, we have to embrace it. So when we are calling the functions, so we have to call it where this is the label part and this is the value part. So here I am calling the print function with I am calling the same method. From part is Bob and the message is howdy. So these are the two labels. And here I am specifying how I am defining the function. So while defining the function, I have to add those named parameters within the curly braces part. So this is message. So first I am trying to send a from part, and the second parameter is message. But while defining, I have reversed it. So but there won't be any issues because we are using named parameters. Anonymous functions, functions without names. So it is also called lambda functions in basically mostly in Python. Its syntax is we are just omitting the name, so we'll give the type. With type it is returning the parameters, parameter list, and whatever code we are trying to generate it from. So suppose.
So Flutter requires Dart.
Yeah.
Flutter
apps are written in Dart language.
That's the only language it produces.
Yeah. So that is the most important thing because
in your presentation there was a point that the Dart compiles to JavaScript.
Yeah.
So why can't we use JavaScript?
Presently, Flutter is a framework that is not supporting JavaScript. It was made with the vision of supporting Dart because using Flutter we are trying to compile it to iOS, Android, and web apps too. So Dart can specifically compile to JavaScript. That is a different feature that is for the web part. But for Android and iOS, they are nature only. So that if you are writing an app in Dart, it would compile it to native Android code and native iOS code.
Dart as a language has more users than just Flutter. For Flutter, we have to write only Dart. Dart compiles to native. And then for web, when you need it, Dart also compiles to JavaScript. This can be used in the web browser. So suppose you are writing an app, it needs to work on web as well as everything. Like you need an entire infrastructure. And if you had to choose, like, I don't want to learn 5 languages to write 5 different things. In that case, Dart has all those things.
Yeah. So just a quick review. This was the syntax. So this is my code. I'm creating a list which contains 3 items, that is apple, bananas and orange. List.forEach, that is a for block. Here I'm not specifying which method I want to use. So this is an anonymous method. I'm just specifying what is the parameter. It is a taking item. And what will it do? Print list.index of that item. So item is my name over here. What name I am trying to give to my parameter. Suppose I am writing like in the previous code there was a parameter known as message and a from. So here item is the name of that parameter, and what I am trying to do is print the list. That is the name of my list dot index of item with a colon part. I am printing the item too. So here we are not specifying which method we are creating. We are not creating a different function for it. So this is very helpful, because if you want to create callbacks or anonymous calls, like if you want to specify in writing FlutterFeb, sometimes most of the times it is troublesome, because just for a small feature you have to create a different function altogether. So this comes very handy. Generics. Apart from like what we have learned so far about generics, like if someone is familiar with C++, we have the STL over there. So apart from that, it helps us in code duplication definitely, and it also helps in to generate code, like effective code. We can generate we can use generics to generate effective codes. Why? Why do we actually need generics? Suppose this is a simple program. Here I am trying to create a list of type string. I am adding the names. Like first I have added 3 names. I am printing that list. After, suppose I want to add some age or something, a number. So this is not possible right now, because this has a fixed type of string. So I cannot add 40 to it. So how generics come into play? This is another example. Suppose I am creating a class which would return, which is taking an object type. Suppose I want to change it and I want to have a string version of it. So I have to altogether create a new class. So I have to write 2 times the same code. Suppose now if I want to create the same class for an int version, I have to write it again. So here generics come into play. I can create a generic class. The class name is catch, and I have just specified T is my generic data type. So T get by key. So it would return me whatever class we are feeding it to it. Suppose we are feeding it int, so it would automatically convert it to int and would return the same. So it is T means you can it is just a name. You can use D, U, V, anything. Just a name. It is the similar thing in C++ we use in STL, standard template like URL template. Yeah, kind of tags. So now we are coming to classes. We all have heard that class is a blueprint of objects, and so as it is a blueprint of objects, so all classes descend from objects. So if you want to refer to any data members of a class, we have to use the dot operator. This thing is common in almost all programming languages. It refers to the current instance of the class. Suppose in the constructor or in some method, the data variable, the name of the data variable, that is the identifier of the data variable, and the formal parameter, both are same. So we use this keyword to indicate which object is calling this class. So it removes the ambiguity in the instance between the formal variables and the instance variables having the same name. Constructors. So constructors are quite different in that we have variety of them. Named constructor, redirecting constructor, constant constructors, default constructors, factory constructors. So what are name constructor? Like whether it is whether it is C++ or Java, we can in C++ we can just have a constructor whether it is default or parameterized. But here we can give a name to a constructor. Suppose I am creating a point class. Now we are giving a name to it. That is origin. So if I am calling that part, so it will, because we know that in our coordinate system, the Cartesian coordinate system x and the origin is located at 0, 0. So we are just giving a name to our that constructor. Suppose we want to initialize an point object with as origin. So we can just directly call point dot origin. Factory constructors. Factory constructors are useful when we want a constructor to return the object of the same class back to us. Because if we use just the default constructor or parameter constructor, the use of the constructor is to initialize the class. It does not return us the object. So if you want to return an object of the same type, so we use factory constructor. Suppose here I have a class logger and I have an instance variable name and a bool variable which is mute, whether it is logging something or it is at the mute state. So it is a boolean. Now I am creating a map which would which would map a string to a class logger class. So I am writing the factory constructor over here, factory logger. I am taking the string name. So it is checking if the catch contains the name. Then already I have this parameter over here. So I could directly return that object, that particular instance of that map. If it does not contain the key value pair having the same name, so it would call another named constructor, that is logger dot underscore internal, and it would store that logger object within the catch name. So catch name is a map. So a particular value of that particular instance of particular unit of that map would store this logger, and then I am returning a logger. So in both the cases I am returning an object of my class logger, because catch is a map of logger. So here also I am returning the logger. So it is used with, if you want to get an object back from where I am calling.
So just explain to me what is exactly happening here. Inside the class logger, you are again calling logger.
Yeah, which part can you specify?
Class logger. In that same, you are creating a class logger. In that you are creating static final map string logger.
Yeah, it would map like a key value pair, just two relation. It would map a string to a type of logger.
Yeah, but that logger is, you are creating a logger class, right? In that logger you can call another logger.
Yeah, I'm creating an object kind of.
That logger is an object and it is being assigned the literal like that. Logger is a class. The map is cache. Okay. And what's happening is that we are assigning it a literal type string in logger. And the factory constructor. The main point of this slide is not to understand this code. The main point is that if we need a function that returns the same type, the class type of, like we are working under the logger class. Okay. And like the normal constructors that we use this keyword to assign the variables internally, and it implicitly returns the object of the class. Just suppose we need a function that explicitly returns the same object of the same class, then we use the factory constructor. That is what factory constructors are. If you want a function that returns the same class, and if you want to use it as a constructor, then we use the factory pattern.
Yeah, you were having a
First, factory logger string. That's the factory constructor, right?
yeah.
Yeah. And then below below there, logger dot underscore internal, is that a named constructor or is that a method for the logger methods?
No, this is a named constructor.
That's a named
Yeah,
constructor.
which is not being defined over here. Right?
That is a name constructor, and that is also one more part to it. It's a private name constructor, so you can't be called from outside. You can only call that constructor from within the class, which means from within factory construction.
So the last part is about asynchronous programming, HTTP and JSON. So asynchronous programming means we are not following the conventional code flow. Like whatever we write, the first part of the first line of the code gets executed first and followed by the second. So in asynchronous programming, we are triggering events. Suppose we are calling some task. Suppose we are downloading a file from the internet. So we cannot predict how much time it would take. It depends on the internet speed or something. So we want to carry on the remaining part of our program, and as soon as the file is downloaded, it would carry on its task. So here, so for that we use asynchronous programming. So when we are trying to communicate with the internet, we use the HTTP. That has its own HTTP package, that is Dart HTTP. We can use the HTTP package. Suppose if you want to call any kind of, like if you want to download a file or if you want to host a file to any of our servers or something, so we need the HTTP package. And JSON files, these are the most common files in which the APIs are made. So we can use the JSON package of Dart to convert a JSON to its model class using build runner, like I explained a few minutes earlier. And those calls would be made using with the help of HTTP package. And that in total it is an asynchronous call because we don't know how much time it would take. So that's been my time. Thank you so much for the patience. HTTP is async and JSON would be covered by Ravish Bhaiya in more in depth. Thank you.
Guys, we still have some time left. So, do you guys have any questions or anything to share about whatever your experiences are? Because it gets monotonous just sitting down and listening, right? So, if you want to come up and say anything, the stage is open for the next 15 minutes or so. Okay, so it's an open stage. Anyone can come and like no one is even watching. For the next 15 minutes, the stage is open.
I have a question.
Okay, question.
How do we connect these Dart and Flutter relation for that? But how is Angular Dart and Dart related?
Okay. Do you know what Angular is?
The Angular.js is like a package for JavaScript. That I know, but Angular Dart I think is
What is Angular?
It's a framework. It's a framework built by Google. First, Angular JS and then version 2 yes.
So what does Angular do?
It makes you single page selection. Like Gmail is totally made of Angular.
Okay. So what is a single page application?
Single page we have a basic parent component, and under that there are child components. So instead of going to different pages on a website, you can go from one.
So Dart is just another language that is supported by the Angular. Dart is a language. What it does that it is used to configure what can be Flutter, they can be Angular. And like Angular
that to write Angular, I don't need to learn TS. Yeah, I can straight away do Dart and go with that.
Although the documentation at this point is not really up to the mark, especially for Angular, because I'm trying to develop an application right now, and it's not a very easy learning curve. But once you get past that, it's a really nice experience, because the tools are there, they have implemented the SDKs really well, but the documentation part is lacking a little bit. And
What about examples of the
yeah, that's what I'm saying, that those things are lacking in many places.
So using Angular, we can make web pages progress in the
Yes. SPAs and PWAs are two different technologies. Sometimes they are used in conjunction, sometimes they are used separately. Guys, do you please come up and show some of the awesome stuff that you built so far. A laptop, and I work on a triple screen set, and in one of the screens I have a SCR-CPY instance running of my phone, and my laptop is not getting the weight of running an entire operating system, emulating an entire operating system. So definitely the build times are faster, and the lags are really rare if at all. And if any time I want to interact with my look down and pick up my phone and all, I can see it right on my screen, on my desktop screen. That's what a simple tool by, I think Motion is the company that's building it. Just how many of you installed it?
আরেকটা ফোন দিয়েছে রাতে দেখলাম যে আমারও হতো বাইরে গিয়ে ভিডিও এক্সটেন্ড করতো একটা ল্যাপটপে তো বাইরে এখানে বাঁচান থাকে না मेरा लैपटॉप में F2 से होता है, मगर जल्दी स्क्रीन चला जाता है तो मेरे बैग नहीं रहता सब सामान उठा के ले सामान तो मेरा भी नहीं अलग बात
Does anyone have an app that needs help? That you need help with, that we can help debug or something?
I have problem in the wallpaper app. If I am
you can discuss your problems over here and we can solve them together. For some timing actually, you guys can come over here, and if you are facing any problem, you can discuss your problem and we can solve them together. So does anyone have that sort of problem statement? Come on, come on. Guys, he has a problem on his Flutter app, and let's see who can solve it. Okay. Please show your.
So I made this app, wallpaper app. When I move to the next tab, it loads the images. But when I move back to the previous tab, it loads this again. So I want to preserve this, that it will be at this position only. It will not load it again.
So you load it from the web.
Yes, using API.
API is basically just
Yes.
right? You can't keep it in memory.
Yes, anytime it's load.
You have that image anyway, right?
Yes, in the word.
Okay, so what are the widgets that you're using over there?
I'm using tabs and tab bar view and this image view with this shape with the rounded corner. When I'm moving to a new
So are you using an image widget or a image provider? Like image asset image? Network image. So is it a network image or is it a image.network? Okay. So there is a package called cached network image. So when you download it, it will cache it into the local storage. Automatically, it will manage all the caching stuff by itself. So use that, and like wherever you use asset image, you will use cached network image provider. And wherever you will use like image.asset, like image.network, it will become cached network image, and network image will become cached network image provider. Use that, then the image.
एक ऐप बार रखी थी, पर वो ऐप बार काम नहीं कर रहा। ये मेन जो डार्ट है, मेन जो पार्ट है, उसका ये ऐप बार काम कर रहा है। ये वाला पार्ट एकदम
तो मेन डॉट डॉट में हर पार्ट नहीं देना चाहिए था, फिर जैसे तुम्हारा स्क्रीन है तो स्क्रीन वाइड करना चाहिए, या फिर इसका एक नया स्टेप फोल्ड हाँ नहीं, एक्चुअली हम बता रहे हैं कि जो मेन डॉट डॉट में तुम फ्री बनाया था, वहाँ अगर तुमको अलग अलग ऐप्स
अच्छा गाइस, हम लोग एक वर्क प्लेस में है ना, तो थोड़ा सा वॉल्यूम कम करते हैं, ठीक है? बात करो, कोई इशू नहीं, थोड़ा सा वॉल्यूम कम करते हैं क्योंकि बगल में लोग काम कर रहे हैं, ठीक है? तो उनको तंग नहीं करेंगे, तभी तो हम लोग को बार बार आने का परमिशन मिलेगा, ठीक है?
यहाँ पे ये इस वाला ऐप अच्छा अच्छा कि वो एक साथ
जब नेविगेटर पास की बॉडी
Thank you.